Welcome back to the Quantum Leap Advantage audio newsletter. This issue will cover 5 credos for success. My 5 credos for success came into being around the spring of 1993 when I sat down and decided that I wanted to be a success coach and I wanted to change how success information, business success information, is disseminated on this planet. And I memorialized the things that I had done for many years and the successes that I had, the failures that I've had, and the 55,000 business decisions that I had made. Now it's closer to 60,000 business decisions that I've made. And I came up with 5 very separate, distinct, fairly definitive items that I believed in that worked for me. Now these are what I call my 5 credos. Napoleon Hill and many of the other success motivational speakers and writers of the last 60 or 70 or 80 years have called them different things. But as you'll see, and as you've heard me say, for example, I've never seen a high-performance, mega-successful person that was part-time, or I've never seen a high-performance person that wasn't super enthusiastic. Some of these precepts have been probably since the beginning of time. Now, it's important to note that just because I call them my 5 credos for success, and I would submit to you that rather than you reinvent the wheel, that you follow the 5 credos for success, you can have variations that make you more comfortable. Number 1, yesterday's dreams are today's realities. What does that mean? Well, at my castle, Guthrie, in Guthrie, Scotland, my 15th century storybook home, for my 50th birthday, my wife gave me a time capsule. One of the things she gave me. I gave myself an 18-hole golf course. On the time capsule, which we're still in the process of filling up, it's very nice marble, and in the marble it's inscribed, yesterday's dreams are today's realities. Now the time capsule and that marble piece, the cover, overlook the lock at Guthrie, which happened to correspond to the 4th hole of the Guthrie golf course, which goes across most of the lock, and the name of that hole is called Quantum Leap because it's about 190 yards, all carried to an uphill, very tight green where you actually have to hit the ball through about 15 yards between 2 trees. Now, my wife put that time capsule there, yesterday's dreams are today's realities, because at one time I visualized myself on a well-manicured, large estate with servants, nannies, governesses. And much of my life was devoted at that period of time in the late 70s and early 80s to having that dream come to fruition. Now, another concept or another way of saying that is today's dreams are tomorrow's realities. And what am I really trying to say? I'm trying to say that men through time, great women through time, had dreams that they made their reality. Henry Ford, when he dreamt of a motor car that was affordable, that every person in America could drive. At that time, the cars cost about $500 or $600, and he made them all black, and he pretty much invented how modern transportation vehicles were going to be made for the next 100 years. It was his dream that he worked on a long, long time, and he made it come to reality. When the individuals that set foot on the moon in 1969, the summer of 1969, at least one of the astronauts had dreamt of setting foot on the moon since he was 5 or 6 or 7 years old. And he became a pilot. He was part of the early astronaut program in the 50s and 60s. And all the high-performance people that I know have been driven with their passion because of some dream. You've heard me talk about countless times people like Joe Montana and world-class athletes, Jack Nicklaus, who dreamt of winning more majors than anybody else in the world, and he's now won 20. It was his passion, it was his dream, and he made it his reality. Everything in his life, everything in my life at one time was to make Great Western Resources, the company that I founded with $820, the company that ultimately, when I decided to retire, had a market value or market capitalization on the London Stock Exchange of over $425 million, was my dream, and I made it my reality. I ate it, I slept it, I breathed it, I lived it totally. I was immersed in it. And I would suggest to you, and I would submit to you, that unless you have passion for your dream, unless you live it totally, and I'm not going to address it on this tape, a balanced life. That'll be, I could talk a whole hour on whether you can have balance and be super successful. That'll be the subject of a later tape. But unless you start with yesterday's dreams or a dream with passion, the chances of you having it come to fruition, the chances of you making it a reality are virtually not zero, but fairly close to zero. Now, in conjunction with that, number 2 is seeing your dreams ahead. Now, what do I mean by seeing your dreams ahead? Well, I've already just alluded to, I saw myself walking across my well-manicured, large estate with governesses, with tennis courts, and with all the accoutrements of the rich and famous. But I'd be on a plane. I'd close my eyes. I'd see myself entertaining there. I'd see myself giving my 40th birthday there, which I did. I saw myself growing older there. I saw my children growing up there. I saw my children's friends visiting us for Christmas, for the summers. I saw my children being married there. I saw my first grandchildren being born, if not there, near there. I saw my friends, as I get towards retirement age, whenever that is, joining me there, playing golf, playing tennis. I saw all these things ahead of time now. I saw myself closing deals there. I saw myself enjoying myself there from various meetings, from various business transactions. Now, the reality is, my dream came to fruition in August of 1984. I've now spent 11 years with that dream, and all the things that I've just alluded to, all the things that I saw ahead of time, seeing dreams ahead, have come to fruition. I've had successful meetings there. I've closed successful transactions there. I've seen one child born right near there. My daughter Kelly was born in 1986, right near the castle. I saw her grow up there. I saw my children start school there. I saw my wife and I celebrate our various anniversaries there. All those things came to fruition. Now, I felt comfortable because I had dreamt and I had seen those dreams ahead of time. It's just as, and I use the example over and over and over again, seeing dreams ahead. A 5-year-old kid, Steve Young of the 49ers, saw himself quarterbacking a Super Bowl team to victory. And when he won the Super Bowl a year or two ago, that dream that he had saw ahead came to fruition. Now, in addition to yesterday's dreams and today's realities, in addition to seeing your dreams ahead, the third credo for success, my third credo for success, and hopefully your third credo for success, is simulation. Practice within when you're without. Now, what does that mean? Now, of the 5 credos, this is probably the one that people sometimes have a little difficulty understanding. Now, we are not always going to be in a position where our dreams come to fruition overnight. In fact, most of the time, our dreams aren't going to come to fruition overnight. Just as Steve Young, when he was 5 or 6 or 7 years old, saw himself passing a football, or quarterbacking, I should say, a football team to an NFL championship, a world championship, he practiced in his own mind for many, many years as a high school quarterback, as a college quarterback, and as a backup quarterback behind Joe Montana until he got his chance, he got his opportunity. He practiced not only on the field, which he did for probably thousands of hours over his 15-year career, but he practiced in his mind. And when I mean practice within when you're without, it's when you're on a plane. It's when you're in a restaurant. It's when in a lull, perhaps in a business meeting. It's when you have the opportunity to relive that experience down to the goosebumps when they're carrying Steve Young off the field as the victorious quarterback in the World Championship football team. It's the same kinds of things that Ted Williams did when he led the, with I believe a 400-plus batting average. He practiced every minute of the day in his mind. He would see himself hitting home runs, making base hits, and towards the highest point of his batting career, he could see the baseball leaving the pitcher's hand. He could see the threads on the baseball. He could see the threads moving in slow motion, and he could see the name of the ball, if it was Rawlings, if it was Spalding, or whatever. He practiced so many times that when he would get to the plate, he would feel totally comfortable, and he knew that he was going to hit every single ball and make a base hit. So he practiced. All the high-performance people that I've ever been associated with, for example, from Ross Perot down, all practice not just in front of mirrors, but practice within when they're without. In other words, when they're in a different situation and they can close their eyes and they can go through the motions of what they want to accomplish. Now, number 4 on our list is act as if there are no limits to your abilities. This is sometimes difficult because all through our life we are told by our parents, by our grandparents, by the kids we went to school with, by our brothers and sisters and whoever else, is that we do have limits to our abilities. We're told that, no, we can't do that. There are 2 examples that I like to use, and there was a movie called Rudy, about Rudy Rudiker, who was a young man who wanted to play football for Notre Dame so badly that he went back and went to a junior college after he served during the Vietnam War, and he went back. I guess he was in his middle 20s by the time he went back to Notre Dame University and ultimately did play for Notre Dame. But there's a scene in the movie where Rudy's father tells him, "We're Rudikers. This isn't for us. Our kind work in steel plants. Our kind don't go to Notre Dame." And what he was really telling his son is that you do have limits to your abilities, and that isn't for you. I use the example very often in my seminars where I talk about my youngest son who wanted to play baseball when we moved back from Scotland, and we went to Rolling Hills, California, which is on the Palos Verdes Peninsula. And my older son decided to play baseball as well, and so we set up a diamond on the estate. And at that time, never having played baseball, I didn't realize that a Little League field was significantly smaller than a regular field that adults play baseball on. And so I set up a diamond, and I set up the fence lines, etc. And my kids had trouble throwing the ball from center field to second base. So we practiced. And when my kids went out for baseball, I told my youngest son, and I wish I had told my oldest son as well, that 1,000 was good and getting on base every time was good. Well, my youngest son, Derek Stewart Peña, batted .640 his first year in baseball. And his team won the championship. He won a lot of awards, and he was very successful, and he liked it. And he was the only catcher that could throw out a young man stealing second in his league. Now, why did he bat .640? When that's twice as good as a good baseball player would bat, that's twice as good as you need to get into the Hall of Fame. Well, he batted .640 because he didn't know he couldn't bat .640. It's one of the reasons I like to work with young people in business, because they're so young they don't know they can't do it. The older we get, the more we think we can't do it. And that's unfortunate. Now, what happened? Year 2, Derek went back to play baseball, and the kids teased him about batting more than twice as good as his nearest competitor. And guess what? He batted .278 because he realized the reality was that he did have limits, and the limits were imposed by the other kids that played baseball. What if he had never talked to or wouldn't allow himself to be worn down by the conditioning or the preconditioning of the other kids or the coaches or the other adults? What would happen to his baseball career? And the tragedy of it all is that in the third year he decided not to play baseball. He decided it wasn't as much fun playing baseball batting .278 as it was batting .640. Year one, he acted as if he had no limits to his abilities. Year two, he realized, even with my coaching, he realized that he did have limits, and he allowed the preconditioning from his friends and the people that he hung around with at the time to overcome the fact that he had acted 1 year with no limits. People often ask me, how did you build Great Western Resources from $820 to $425 million when oil went from $40 a barrel down to $8 a barrel? And on some of the indices, it went as low as $6 a barrel. And I go back and I use the quote that I used to the Financial Times a number of years ago when asked that very question. And I said, we decided as a management team at Great Western Resources to act as if we had no limits to our abilities, and we merely presupposed or saw ahead positive occurrences, which gets back to Seeing Dreams Ahead number 2. I guarantee you, if you act in your business life or in life in general as if you have no limits to your abilities, your chances of having exponential, geometric growth in your business will be enhanced exponentially. Now, the fifth credo, and the credo that really ties the first four together, again, number 1, yesterday's dreams are today's realities. Number 2, seeing dreams ahead. Number 3, simulation, meaning practice within when you're without. And number 4, act as if there are no limits to your abilities. Number 5 is enthusiasm. Now, for some of you that might not know, enthusiasm comes from a Greek word. And the word means Greek God within. I've said countless times, probably thousands of times now, since May 22nd, 1993, when I gave my first Quantum Leap Advantage seminar, that I've never, ever, ever seen a super high-performance, mega-successful person that wasn't enthusiastic. Never. Think about all the think about all the successful people that you know. Now let's go down the list one by one. Do you remember? Can you find anyone on that list that wasn't enthusiastic? Think about the successful people that you read about. Bill Gates, Rick Scott, Dell, Jobs. Are any of them not enthusiastic? You can think a long, long time, and you will not be able to come up with one single solitary person. Think about other endeavors. Forget business. Think about politics. Do you ever see politicians that are elected to office that aren't enthusiastic? Do you ever see athletes that aren't enthusiastic about their profession that are successful? Do you ever see anybody in life, in anything, from business to pleasure, that's good at it, very good at it, that's not super enthusiastic? Have you ever seen a salesman that's a good salesman that wasn't enthusiastic? The answer is you have never seen anybody that has attained success in virtually any endeavor on the face of the earth that wasn't enthusiastic. So I ask you, if you're not enthusiastic, and I would implore you to be enthusiastic, how can you expect to be successful? How can you expect yourself to be a high achiever? How can you expect exponential or geometric growth for your business if you're not enthusiastic? The enthusiasm credo, the last credo, ties the first four together. When you are seeing your dreams ahead, you're seeing them with enthusiasm. You're seeing positive occurrences. You're not seeing things that are coming to fruition that aren't successful. Joe Montana doesn't see Jerry Rice drop the ball in the end zone. Steve Young doesn't see the ball being dropped in the end zone when he throws a pass. He sees it being caught. when you're thinking about yesterday's dreams or today's realities, you're not thinking about in any other manner other than enthusiastically, because when those dreams come to fruition, you will be happy. Enthusiasm is the key, in my judgment, to the 5 credos. The very essence of success is based on whether you're enthusiastic about it. Many of you that are listening to this tape have seen me speak in person. And I think without question, anybody that's ever seen me speak, and not everybody will like what I say, and not everybody would like the way I say it, but I don't think we can find a member of any of the audiences that I've done this before in front of that wouldn't say that I am super enthusiastic. Now, I'd like to tie together how you can make the 5 credos work for you. Now, in years gone by, I used to write my credos out in the morning, and I'd read them when I got up. I'd write them out. I wouldn't read them. I'd write them out in the evening before I go to bed, and I did that for many, many years. I also did that with my goals, which will be the subject of another audio tape later on. But now I rewrite them once a month in my daytimer. When I go from one month to the next month in my daytimer, I rewrite the 5 credos. Now, needless to say, I know what the 5 credos are, but I still rewrite them. Why do I do that? I want to form the habit that I still have to review the 5 credos. Now, we have success stories that have gone through the Quantum Leap Advantage program. People who live in Canada, people who live in Great Britain, people who live in the United States, that not only do what I've just alluded to by writing them in the morning, writing them in the evening, they have them blown up on the refrigerator. They have them blown up on their mirror where they shave or where they put their makeup on. They have them on their sun visors. They have them in their briefcases, in their purses. They have them in their wallets. They have them tucked in their suitcases when they travel. They have copies, literally 5 or 6 or 8 or even sometimes 10 copies all through the house so they can see. We have one lady that went through the program who, using the 5 credos on her refrigerator, blown up by 3 by 4 feet, lost 118 pounds. Gentlemen like Bruce Whipple in New York City, who is a good friend of mine and an alumni of the program for the last couple of years and currently a partner of mine in business, even though he knows probably as much about the Quantum Leap methodology as anybody that's ever gone through the program, other than myself, he still religiously follows the 5 credos. And I would recommend that following the 5 credos enthusiastically will allow you to have your dreams become reality and your business endeavor come to fruition.